I'm a very emotional writer, which means that I don't like to have set deadlines. I like to write when I feel like writing, and I don't necessarily want to follow through and finish everything that I've started because most of the time I just don't feel like finishing it. You may recognize this whole scenario in yourself because a lot of creators are just like this. And more to the point, a lot of neurodivergent writers are specifically used to this, but they don't exactly know how to get out of it. So I wanted to throw in a few things that I do to help myself along, and now I've actually trained myself to stick to one thing. Hang tight and let me talk to you about some of the strategies that I have used to write a lot more consistently. Welcome to my channel, Scribes. I built this channel so that I can demystify some of the entertainment industry for writers, and of course I help writers create a healthy writing foundation with good habits and pass on tips to help you develop story. My name is Pika Lee, and I'm a writer and filmmaker. The hardest thing about being a writer is finishing a piece of writing. I know this all too well because that was definitely me a few years ago. And now I write so consistently that people are always asking me, okay, well, how do you do it? The real trick is actually to just try a combination of all of the things that people have recommended to you and see what works for you. The first thing is body doubling. Now, this was a term that I learned very recently actually, but I had already been doing this. So I typically like to get together with a group of friends, like a writer's group, or with even my boyfriend, just sitting at home at our own separate desks. And I like to actually just sit there in silence and do my own creative thing. Body doubling is really, really effective for those who feel that they need a bit of a silent helping hand. Sometimes you get motivated just sitting with someone who is there doing some sort of work also. When you're struggling and you're working with someone else, it almost feels like they are taking some of the struggle off of you and making it a really, really inviting place to be. And you also know that they're going to be your accountability partner. You might have noticed body doubling is something that people do when they're working out, when they're eating healthy. It's something that's very common in society already. So if you are interested in body doubling, grab a friend. You can go and treat yourself afterwards, which is a great motivator in itself. Music stimulation. Music stimulation is kind of all the rage right now. We've got tons of channels that are aimed at instrumentals, lo-fi, chill hop, all kinds of music that has been making its rounds on the internet. There's also a bunch of great new playlists that include 8D or bilateral music. So if you're really into that now and it's giving you that great healthy sort of floss between the ears and you are enjoying it when you write, definitely jump on a playlist. I actually have some study with me's here, so remember to subscribe so that you can actually come back later and find those videos and help you write your story. I myself like to create multiple playlists for certain things that I'm writing. If I'm writing something that is romance drama, I'm going to find music that sort of fits the thing that I'm writing. I'm going to create a playlist. I also like to create a motivational poster, so a book cover or a movie poster, sort of just depicting what I think that my project might look like if it got made. And that's extra motivating. I do it for free in Canva. If you haven't seen my how to make a book or movie poster tutorial for Canva, go check it out. I have that linked on my channel. I make a playlist on Spotify, Apple Music, or even on YouTube with tons of music that's going to stimulate my imagination and keep me very motivated because I've attached meaning to my story to that playlist. My favorite thing to do is go to coffee shops. I like to hear the background noise. I don't like to sit in silence all that often, but I will do it sometimes. I've gotten kind of used to it. And those things are satisfying for me if I take a day out of the week to go to and treat myself. So it's another way if you like being physically around people and that is enough for you to be motivated in a sort of body doubling way without having anyone there. And if you're more of an introvert, it's a really nice setting to just sit and work, because you know that most people who are there are also working on something. Another thing I really like to do is sometimes when I'm feeling a little bit overwhelmed about the lack of writing that I've done, or I'm feeling very blocked, I like to journal. which is something that I picked up from one of my best friends who read The Artist's Way. And I have been recommended that book so many times, but have not gotten to it. But I did pick up a tip somehow from it just by actually getting tips from other people. So journaling is something that I find kind of interesting. It's a way to get out the flood of emotions because I'm an emotional writer. I get out the flood of emotions by writing down a lot of my worries, what I feel blocked about. I just find that writing out some of my worries might actually get it out of my system and help me process it a little bit better. If you're not afraid of the page, you become a more consistent writer. The next thing that I would say to you is schedule your writing. I tend to have a journal where I have talked about so many times. I get a journal every year and I put a lot of my goals in it. A lot of my goals are writing goals, and so I will put in that there are a certain amount of feature films I would like to write in a year, a certain amount of books, and a certain amount of TV shows that I would like to write also, and I have to hit those marks within 4 quarters. It's a way to keep myself productive by keeping a schedule so that I know that there's always something else to be done. My tip for this is not simply just to schedule yourself, but to allow yourself to mix and match those schedules. Remember that a lot of storytelling in screenwriting or novel writing or any kind of writing is really just keeping yourself consistently writing, because you have to always be practicing and evolving your writing voice so that it ultimately gets to a place where you can write very quickly. I do give myself deadlines and I try to be as harsh on myself with those deadlines as possible. The next thing I like to do is outline thoroughly. This just works best with my personality and the way that I found that my structuring my writing works the best. And this is mostly because I am not 100% great with all of the major beats and making sure they show up on time. For me, processing the story means sort of mathematically getting my structure together in a way where I can dictate to myself that a certain amount of pages have to be dedicated to maybe the inciting incident. And then when I get to the break into 2, it's got to be, a little bit more of the fun and games right here in this section, and what should they be so that I don't get stuck in the writing process where I'm just completely unsure of what comes next and wasting time with writer's block because I don't think of anything I think is good enough to come up in the fun and games. It doesn't have to be as thorough as I do it. For reference, I do change my scenes quite often, even when I have an outline. It just helps me go the same direction that I was heading in and make sure that the scenes that do change actually have a purpose for changing. It's all just a Google Maps to the same place. I'm just making sure that if I take a back street, it still gets me to where I want to go. Now, a lot of the things that I'm giving you as sort of the advice that I would give to any person who asked me is really sort of just the training wheels to get you sort of grounded and into a habit. Pomodoro technique is simply timing your sections of writing sessions so that you can follow a time limit and have a nice break in between. You're not writing straight through for a couple of hours. You're breaking those into maybe 20-minute or 30-minute increments and taking a 5 to 10-minute break so that you can reset, relax, and then come back into it without losing too much of the steam. Pomodoros are great even if I don't write that much in the session because I at least know and feel the pressure of deadline mode.
Now can you do that thing that makes us do all the doings in the last minute?
Well, in that case, I must activate deadline mode.
Now this next thing I picked up from a Redditor on Reddit. Sometimes you're able to just zone in on something and focus really hard. For me, I tend to listen to music that inspires and is attached to my script. If I'm about to go write and I know I'm traveling home, I will listen to the music. If I'm at work and I have the time to listen to the playlist, I will, knowing that I'm gonna come home thinking about my story and write. I tend to watch TV shows or watch movies that are similar to mine, and I tend to sort of hyperfixate or hyperfocus on that thing all day, and it brings up lots of new elements that I can add to my story. It gets the wheels turning in my brain so that it can start to develop more of the story and get more excited about it, and it really puts me in a very good mood to write. It's something like continuing to write off the page. The last thing that's worked very well for me is if I'm starting something new and I don't know what to start, I love to use writing aids. I have Write the Story, which is a book of writing prompts that gives you some elements that you can use in the story. A friend has also recommended the Writer's Emergency Pack, which is created by John August. He is one of the WGA members, and he is a screenwriter that has actually created a deck of cards that could potentially stir up some new things for your story. It's not very expensive, and I really do like it whenever my friend brings it out at our writers group, because it's something that actually is pretty useful if you're sort of stuck in this moment and you can't get past a scene. I hope these help you, and I hope that you enjoyed this video. Give me a thumbs up if you liked this and you want to see more just like it. Subscribe if you want to join the community of writers, and I will see you on the next one, Scribes.